Keith Sargeant here after a disappointing 20-17 Rutgers loss to Louisville. Rutgers' chance to win a Big East title was squandered in a 16-second span late in the third quarter. Louisville came back, scored the game winner on a field goal with 1:16 remaining. Gary Noah threw two interceptions in the final 4 minutes to lose. Lots of disappointing plays. We'll start off with Tim Wright, obviously fifth-year senior, one of the best kids on the team. Just a class, a captain. Two drops, so the one drop really led to the pick. Ryan, you were in the locker room. I think you pretty much summed up the mood.
Yeah, I talked to Tim after the game. I mean, he's a college kid, but a total pro, and I mean, he just owned up to it. He said he didn't look the ball in his hands, wasn't concentrating, didn't do the fundamentals they have to do to secure the ball. And Rutgers has been hurt by drops all year. Harrison, Coleman have had them. It was unusual to see the most reliable receiver they have drop the ball, but came back. The drops that have wanted them all year came back to hurt them in the big spot.
And let's not all pin it on Tim Wright. Obviously, there were a lot of other plays. Credit Louisville where credit is due. Teddy Bridgewater was super. A lot of talk going into the game. What he was going to do with the broken wrist, injured ankle. It came on first series in the second quarter, and he was super. Steve, I mean, just talk about the way he played, and
Well, it was a courageous performance by Teddy. No question about that. I mean, unfortunately, from the Rutgers standpoint, however it happens, it always seems to happen. And this was the big game where Rutgers had a chance to really legitimize the entire program, to walk into the Big Ten with your head held high, and once again, they weren't able to do it, and it was just like 2006, just like last year in Connecticut, except this time there was even more at stake. This time the BCS berth was there for the taking, and really with 16 minutes left in the game, you're up 9 points. You're in control of this game, and it just slipped away so quickly. And at the end, they just couldn't make the plays. They couldn't match Teddy Bridgewater down the stretch in the plays.
People are going to say same old Rutgers, and you can make an argument for that. I think the effort was there. I think maybe if you want to trace it, maybe a week ago they should have won the Pittsburgh game. You're going to look back. That's going to be the loss that a lot of people are going to look back on and say what might have been. Because I think they would have won that game. This game would have been meaningless. Again, effort I thought was there. I mean, at the end of the day, as Ryan said, a lot of drops, a lot of plays that just didn't go Rutgers' way. Ended up in a loss. And now I think Rutgers is probably going to get a berth in the Russell Athletic Bowl. Orlando, we'll find out on Sunday. But Ryan and Steve, I mean, you've been around this team all year. How do you think they regroup from this?
It's funny you pointed to last week's game. Even Steve Harnett said, people were trying to ask him about a million different excuses he could make for this game, the special teams touchdown that got wiped away. He said, listen, we could have won the conference last week. So I don't, with all the leadership they have, all the fifth-year seniors, I think they regroup well. I mean, the truth of the matter is that no one wants to hear this right now, at least of all those guys, but the Russell Athletic Bowl is probably still the best bowl Rutgers has ever been to, quality-wise. So I think they'll regroup. I mean, I think that these fifth-year seniors have been through the ringer, will want to go out on a high note, and that certainly wasn't it.
Well, I definitely think it's an important game for Rutgers. I think they need to regroup, and I think they need to win that game, because if you go out of this season losing 3 straight games like that, that really puts a damper on what was, a great season up until 3 weeks ago. And I really think it's an important game.
And once again, I just want to illustrate in the locker room, it was a stunned locker room. I've been covering Rutgers for 7 years. I've never seen a locker room like that. When Kyle Flood went to each player and give him a big hug, bear hug, you got to give a lot of credit to a lot of the players. They stood up, they talked about it. Tim Wright talked about Kasim Green was really classy after the game. You'll read all that coverage and hear all that coverage on the blog. Again, disappointing loss, effort solid, but in the end, Rutgers dropped a heartbreaker.